Hi guys, it's Monday morning, March 23rd, and we are ready to start our distance learning adventure. So I know I look like a news correspondent here, but the microphone hopefully will pick up better through this headset rather than just talking at the computer. So you'll have to comment and let me know if you can hear me okay. So we're just going to brush up, have a quick refresher on the reproductive and urinary systems, which is what we kind of left off on before school stopped. So if you have your book with you, I'm on page 827. We'll start with the male reproductive system. And you can see that this is the diagram that we've been using in class, so it should look familiar. Major reproductive organs. So the testes are in the scrotum because they cannot be inside the body. The body temperature is too warm to produce sperm cells, so the testes are held outside of the body in the scrotum. During fetal development, by around 8 months, the testosterone will stimulate testes to distend from inside the body to outside the body into the scrotum. And the gubernaculum is going to become the spermatic cord, which suspends the testes in the scrotum. Each testes have lobules, and each lobule has about 1 to 4 seminiferous tubules. This is what forms the epididymis, where the sperm cells will later mature. And then, of course, the vas deferens or ductus deferens will be the travel path for the sperm cell. The head of the sperm contains the nucleus, which of course is a haploid cell. It's 23 chromosomes. What? Okay, can you ask your sister? Yeah, you can. Okay, sorry about that. I am recording at home, and of course the kids need stuff too. So anyways, the oval head of the sperm cell contains the chromosomes, and the head is covered by an acrosome, which has enzymes that allow the sperm cell to penetrate the outside layers of the egg cell. The mid piece is going to have all of our mitochondria because they need a lot of adenosine triphosphate for mobility. And the tail is just an extension of the membrane, which is helping in that lashing motion to propel the sperm cell through its environment. And this was the slide that just showed the difference. Here's the egg cell, here's the sperm cell. You can see the difference in size. You need to know the path of sperm, which starts in the testes. Then it's going to go up to the epididymis, right here where it matures. Once it's ready, it's going to go through the ductus deferens or the vas deferens. It's going to unite with fluid from the seminal vesicle, go past the ejaculatory duct, and meet up with the urethra. Right here you see the prostate gland. It's going to secrete nutrients for the sperm, and behind there are the bulbourethral glands, which secrete fluid that will help lubricate the tip of the penis. So we talked about what is in semen. Besides sperm, we have the seminal vesicle secretions, prostate gland secretions, bulbourethral gland secretions, prostaglandins, and then nutrients. The semen has to be slightly alkaline or basic, which it needs to be a pH of above 7 to counteract the acidic environment of the vagina. So we talked about how sexual stimulation starts the erection process. After the brain receives parasympathetic impulses from the sacral region after stimulation, the neurons are going to release nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. When those arteries dilate, it's going to increase the blood flow to this area, and then it opens up the arteries, but it's going to compress the veins so that not as much blood can flow away from the area, and that erection can be sustained. Excuse me. Orgasm includes emission, which is just moving the sperm cells through the duct, and then ejaculation is expelling the semen to the outside. The male sex hormone is called testosterone. It is secreted by the testes, and this increases after puberty and will be secreted for the rest of the male's life. It helps to form the reproductive organs during fetal development, causes the testes to descend, and then during puberty, it enlarges testes, increases body hair, and it thickens your vocal cords, which is the lowering of the voice, and increased muscle growth, and also helps to strengthen bones. So I would encourage you to watch the video. I know we watched it in class, but it's a good refresher if you want to go back to the crash course. All right, so now I am going to be going to the female reproductive organs, and the diagram is on page 840. So you can see that this is the diagram that we've been using. If you want to follow along with your book, go. So here are the main organs of the female reproductive system. You can see that they are almost all internal. We have some secondary sex organs like the breasts that we won't be going over. So the main female reproductive organ is going to be the ovaries because they produce the eggs and also estrogen and progesterone. They're suspended on each side of the pelvic cavity by ligaments. The uneven distribution of cytoplasm in the cell of an egg is going to lead to a polar body and a secondary oocyte at the end of meiosis. The secondary oocyte is the one that can go on and be fertilized and become a zygote. The polar bodies will eventually degenerate. At puberty, the follicles in each ovary begin to mature, and only one developed follicle occurs during each reproductive cycle. The process of releasing the secondary oocyte or egg from the follicle is called ovulation. After ovulation, the egg goes to the opening of the uterine tube and it's there for fertilization, but if it doesn't get fertilized, it degenerates. What is the path of the egg? It's going to follow the uterine tube or fallopian tubes, and that travels from the ovary to the uterus. The uterus's job is to receive the embryo and sustain the development of the fetus should it be fertilized. And it does this in the lower neck of the uterus called the cervix. Remember, the vagina is a muscular tube extending from the uterus to the outside. It guides uterine secretions, and its main job is to receive the penis during intercourse. And its second main job would be to form the birth canal later on should a baby form. Our external sex organs include the vulva, which you can break down into the labia majora, the labia minora, and this fatty cushion up here where the labia majora meets is called the mons pubis. We also have the clitoris up here, which it contains those erectile tissues just like the penis does. So upon sexual stimulation, NO is released again, and these tissues swell. And here's the vaginal opening. Here's the urinary opening. Again, if you would like to review the female reproductive system, you can see the crash course video that we watched. We watched this video in class. I know not everybody was there that day, but if we ever get back, I can give you guys the DVD. So now we're going to go back to chapter 20, and this is on page 770. We'll be going over the major organs. So you can see here we've got our kidneys on either side. The ureters are the tube that travel to the bladder and then after the urine is in the bladder held there, it's going to be expelled to the outside through the urethra. Let's turn the page. This is 772. This is another page and diagram that we've used a lot. You can see this is a sagittal section of the kidney because it's important to know what the inside parts of it are. Let's go back through the notes quick. So the whole point of our urinary system is to take the waste from the cells and get it outside the body because it can build up and become toxic. So the functions of the urinary system are to remove the salt and nitrogenous waste, maintain a good balance and concentration of water and electrolytes, help maintain pH, and of course, the production of the RBCs. Composition, just like I showed you in the book, got our kidneys on either side. Remember, they are behind the peritoneal membrane, so we call them post-peritoneal, can't talk. It's actually hard doing videos, but I'm doing them for you because I miss you guys. This is the best we can do, right? So here's the ureter, goes to the bladder, and then the tube to the outside is the urethra. Here's another view of where the kidneys sit. You can see the renal arteries and renal veins are going to meet up with the inferior vena cava and the abdominal aorta. The entrance to the kidney is called the hilum, and this convex part here is called the renal sinus. This looks like the picture in your book. So here is the hilum, then it's going to branch into the major calyces and then branch further into the minor calyces. Right at the end of the minor calyces, you'll see the renal papilla that lead into the renal pyramid. This whole layer of all the pyramids together is called the renal medulla. And then on the outside, we have the renal cortex. And then the outer boundary is known as the renal capsule. You need to know the path of blood as it enters. So it's going to come in through the artery here. It's going to go into the interlobular arteries. Afferent arteries are here. Efferent arteries are returning until it becomes the renal vein and back out into the inferior vena cava. Here's a look at what the pyramid looks like close up. So in order to process and filter that waste that's coming in through the blood, it has to go through a little journey. It has to go through all these loops and curves. Talked about the main kidney functions, regulating volume and composition of fluids, removing waste. It also removes water. A lot gets reabsorbed in the proximal tube, but it's also going to control the rate of RBC formation. It does that by secreting in a hormone, a messenger called erythropoietin. The nephron is the main functional unit of the kidney. It is located in the renal corpuscle, which is composed of a cluster of tangles you can see here, known as the glomerulus. Here's that pathway that the waste is going to take. Starting here, it's coming in through the arteries, the afferent arteries. Inside of Bowman's capsule is the glomerulus. It's going to enter the proximal tubule. This is where most of the reabsorption of water occurs. Goes through the loop of Henle, and then by the time it reaches the distal tubule, there's no more water reabsorption. This is where all the excess waste and water is going to be collected at the collecting duct, and then it's going to continue down to the ureter. Here's an up-close, detailed look at what the waste is doing. When it goes through glomerular filtration, This is when the urine begins to form. So once it reaches the distal tubule, it's going to form urine in the collecting duct. So like I said, most of the fluid is returned to the body in the proximal tubule, and what's not needed is pushed further through the distal tubule. What is in urine? It's mostly water, and it also has urea and uric acid. This was an animation that we watched on the diuretic action of the kidney. I would rewatch that if I were you. After urine forms, the ureters carry the urine to the bladder, and the bladder is kind of just like a storage pouch. It's going to store urine before it's eliminated through the body. Micturition is just a fancy term for urination. The detrusor muscle is what's attached to the bladder. It has a sphincter there to control the opening of the urethra, so we keep that nice and contracted when we're not urinating, and when it's relaxed, it opens it up. Okay, and we didn't really talk about dialysis, but I know some of you guys have that topic for your presentation. Okay, so that was the quick refresher. I will be putting out a Quizlet and a study guide, and I want you guys to start reviewing because we will be taking a test on Blackboard soon. It will either be Friday or Monday, depending on how quickly I can get those other materials put out. All right, hope you guys are having a good day.